Am I audible?
Yeah.
Good. So, I'll be talking about shifting paradigms in cyber network operations. This is essentially about correlating the present world cyber network operations with old intelligence and counterintelligence techniques, how we can correlate both of them, and what we can learn from those year-old techniques and how we can apply them in the current scenario. So, a brief intro about me. I work with the company Dark Matter in the UAE. I majorly do digital forensics and incident response. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. Apart from this, I do threat hunting, brainstorming on, especially on infosec topics, and I like to travel whenever I get the free time. I'll be around after the conference, so for anything that you want to discuss, we can meet up after the conference. A little disclaimer about the presentation. This whole presentation is my own, and it does not reflect the position of my organization. And although I'm going to talk about intelligence and counterintelligence, I am not here to talk about any classified information if that is something that you thought that it would be covering. So you'd be really disappointed if you think that there will be some classified information. A special thanks to my colleague Joseph. He was supposed to join in this talk, but he could not come here due to some unavoidable conditions. He put in a lot of efforts in preparing this presentation and putting in his thoughts based on his experience from the red team, because it's a combination of the red team as well as blue team activities. So, what is this all about? I'm trying to provide an insight into the traditional intelligence and counterintelligence methodologies that have been refined over the years. It has been used in military operations for a long time. Regardless of whether you are a part of the offensive team or the defensive team, these principles apply in the today's cybersecurity scenario, and the fundamentals remains the same. We just need to see that rather than trying to reinvent new things every day, just getting lost in maybe new buzzwords, we can focus on these established methodologies and try to leverage the platform which is there, try to leverage the framework which is already there in today's scenario. Really a brief intro about cyber network operations, because I'm trying to correlate the cyber network operations with intelligence and counterintelligence. So cyber network operations started as a military thing years back as computer network operations. Three major sub-functions of cyber network operations are cyber network defense, cyber network exploitation, and cyber network attack. I will be talking about cyber network defense and cyber network exploitation with relation to applying intelligence and counterintelligence while you are a part of either the defense team or the exploitation team. So the agenda for today is very small and straightforward. Intelligence and its application in cyber network operations. So we will touch upon a brief history of intelligence. You will see a few use cases and the applications of intelligence. We will go through the intelligence life cycle and we'll see how we can apply that both in offense and defense side. Same goes for counterintelligence. We'll see their application in both from the defensive counterintelligence perspective and offensive counterintelligence perspective, along with the use cases. So, if we try to look at it from the existing framework, you need to look at your organization from a perspective of a nation state. You should try to answer these basic questions that when a nation state try to protect their assets, what exactly they are trying to protect. They're trying to protect their technology, their economy, their infrastructure, and above all, their secrets. Because every nation, every company has secrets, and probably those secrets related to business or personnel or any sort of secrets are probably one of the biggest assets that they try to protect, which are directly related to the revenues that they generate. So looking at your organization from the same perspective, what exactly you should be trying to protect. It could be your operational capabilities, your financials, the technology, the intellectual property, your research and development, your clients, the client data. So as I said, every company has their secrets, and especially if you are doing any sort of business where you keep customer related information or NPI or personal information of users or clients, that information is of prime importance, and that is something that you should look into from the same perspective of a nation state related secret, because that is what your business is based on. So we'll see how we can apply those techniques while we try to correlate the intelligence and counterintelligence techniques with our commercial organizations. One thing to notice in this context is while both military and us and as an organization, any company that you work for, you are responsible for your work, and the actions that a military takes, the actions that they take for doing some intelligence activities or anything that they do, their customers or people that they are answerable to, they are a different set of people that they are answerable to. They are very restricted by what they can do in terms of finances. But at our level, when we are doing intelligence or information gathering or any sort of work, we are kind of free to do a lot of things in terms of finances. You can trade off the information. We can make business of the based out of the information. So while we try to apply the existing framework, you need to be very aware that the people that we are answerable to are a different set of people as compared to the national agencies. So a little definition and the information about when we talk about intelligence, what exactly it is. Because there is a very kind of dark overlaying mystical idea behind when we talk about intelligence. Because the general notion is we think that the intelligence and counterintelligence is something that a national level of agency or police or a military is only involved into. That is not the case, because and when we talk about intelligence, there are a lot of buzzwords that we get lost into, especially in the current scenario. We hear a lot of intelligence. It could be business intelligence, it could be strategies intelligence, human intelligence. I mean, you can name it anything. But essentially, intelligence is just about collecting, analyzing, and exploiting the information. The ultimate goal is the information objective. You will be knowing that what exactly you are trying to get out of the information that you are collecting, and the whole process of starting from collecting to exploiting that information to reach your objective is intelligence. A few examples that I have mentioned here is, like, you can think of investment decisions, predicting troop movements, spreading influences, political influences, and a lot of other things. It's not just because we have been thinking that intelligence is something which is very close to intelligence agencies. This is not only related or only restricted to activities like espionage or counter-espionage activities. A really brief history about intelligence and how it has been used over the years. This is a famous book, if you would have seen. You can try to relate it with the art of cyber war in the current scenario. There are a lot of good sayings in this book which fits completely into today's scenario. He was a Chinese general, military strategist, and a philosopher in long back, maybe 500 BC. Also, at the very basic level, if you want to think of in current scenario, you can think of maybe Caesar cipher, or what we know as shift cipher. It's a very simple technique that when you replace a certain alphabet with something else when you try to crypt it. That's a very common technique that has been used over the years and is still being used in a lot of programming languages and a lot of other encryption techniques that we try to use. In the US, they have specific titles for intelligence and military operations. So Title 10 is directly related to military operations, and Title 50 is very specific to doing intelligence activity. However, it's not always necessary that these two groups are not working together. There will always be a lot of overlap when military operations happen, and even they have different wings responsible for doing operational activities and doing intelligence activities. There will be a lot of interferences between these two groups. But this may not be the same case in other countries or maybe in other states like it is there in the United States. If we come to the modern world, in this century, in the very beginning of this century till now, there have been a lot of private and commercial intelligence services which have emerged, and they are still emerging every day. And I'm referring to the intelligence agencies who are doing geopolitical intelligence, international security groups. There are also a lot of corporate security espionage groups as well. One company targeting another company. They have specific groups doing this kind of work in different fields. So, and on top of that, when we talk about cybersecurity, there is a lot of talk about fields, which is whenever we talk about doing intelligence or threat intelligence, most of the time people are talking about fields. There are plenty of fields that you can get, like you have threat intelligence, geopolitics, social media monitoring, exploit development, and vulnerability assessment related information. But just getting a feed is not essentially an intelligence. That is just another source of information that you again need to collect, analyze, and exploit to convert that into intelligence. So we will touch upon that. Intelligence disciplines in cyber network operations. Social engineering is one of the examples where we utilize a lot of human intelligence by doing exploitation work. This is a typical intelligence life cycle. Excuse me for my bad oval egg-shaped diagram. We'll quickly touch upon what exactly it is all about. So let's discuss a scenario from offense. Let's see that. Let's take an example that we have a foreign adversary that we want to target, and we started doing information gathering with open source intelligence, social engineering, everything. So we started collecting the information, acquiring information regarding the company, the infrastructure, OSINT. We collect that information, process that, and whatever results we get, you submit it to the management. Based on the result that you get, they decide to up the risk factor, and they try to get into that country, maybe get a little closer to the infrastructure, install a ROG API near the company, and get more information. Maybe try to get into do some sort of phishing, get into user emails, trying to get user passwords. Even if the guys who are doing this exploitation work, even if they are really bad at what they are doing, they would still be able to collect a lot of information while doing this. And based on the information that you collected, it is decided that whether you want to go a little further or you want to stop over there. Based on the activities that you performed physically over there, it is again fed back into the cycle, which is essentially the same thing. You collect the information, you process, you analyze, you disseminate the information, and you feed it back to the management. And then again, based on the intelligence gathered from this entire process, gives you the power to decide what exactly we need to do next. If we try to flip the coin, if you are on the defensive side, if you have been targeted and a penetration has occurred, a third-party incident response team, a threat hunting team is brought at the scenario. They come with 24x7 SOC in a box, SSL inspection techniques, IOCs, maybe endpoint-based threat hunting, everything that you need in this scenario. And they start, what they do, they deploy whatever they have and they start collecting information. That is where it all starts. They start collecting information. They try to start create intelligence out of the information that is there, and based on that, they can tell you that what exactly has happened and what we should be doing next. So, whatever they collect, maybe they don't find the adversary. Maybe you have not given them the clear picture. But one thing is very sure. The picture might be clear, might be vague, but one thing is very clear, that what is there, isolate it and neutralize it. That's the simple, vague but still clear directive. So, and with this information, with this task, they start, again go to the same phase, because they have the task that we just discussed, and they start collecting the information from the defensive perspective. If you go to the next level, based on the information which was found in this particular scenario, it is fed to the next team, which might be your forensics team, might be your malware analysis team. They might start collecting hard drive images, RAM images, malware samples, PCAPs, maybe mobile phones as well. Also, they can conduct interviews, they interview people, interrogate people, and again, the same feedback loop goes again and again till you reach your information objective. That is where we started. So the end result is, regardless of which side of the line you were, whether on the defensive side or on the offensive side, they have leveraged the intelligence life cycle that we just saw, starting from getting a clear task that what exactly needs to be done, and based on that tasking, what kind of information you need to collect, and how you process, how you analyze, how you collaborate all that information and feed it back to the tasking phase and see what exactly needs to be done. This is a famous quote. Coincidentally, it is Rob Joyce, chief of NSA's Tailored Access Operations. Coincidentally, he spoke at Bsides last year, and it might be a little bit rephrased, but the idea is this sentence, like you cannot defend what you don't know, is essentially about intelligence. You need to gather intelligence about your internal environment and whatever assets that you have, because bad guys are putting in their time, and we need to put in our time for collecting that information that they try to collect from outside. Coming to counterintelligence, it's a kind of subset of intelligence activity itself. We should try to view counterintelligence as a primary function, as a CISO maybe, because the protection of the very important assets of your organizations are very much related to the techniques that we apply in counterintelligence, both from the defensive and offensive side. We'll see how does it relate to that. So when we talk about counterintelligence, the focus is on 4 Ds, which is deterrence, detection, deception, and disruption. If you notice, the first 2 are majorly on the defensive side, and the last 2 are majorly on the offensive. The focus is on the offensive side. However, there is a little bit of overlap as well, especially on the detection side, because when you are attacking, you also try to detect that whether the other party is able to detect you or not. So, but majorly, the deterrence and detection is mostly on the defensive side, and deception and disruption is on the offensive side. So, let's take a scenario. It's a kind of a very ideal scenario. most of the organization, or at least we think that this is a kind of scenario at our organization, that we have mature processes, policies and procedures, operationally effective, everything is in place, and we have a blue team or a red team or a attacking team or a defending team, and most of the times one team is not aware of what the other team is doing. That's a typical case in most of the organization. So let's take this scenario and see how can we apply the counterintelligence technique here. So starting with the blue team. So basically, maybe the blue team has seen some alerts and they are unaware that the red team has been targeting them directly just to test their capabilities. So they get to see some alerts, maybe some WAF alerts or something. They get into the data center, they get to see that there is a new device which has entered into the DC, and they get into the data center, they try to, they see the initial enumeration activities from, probably they declared deception networks, they try to find out the initial enumeration activities that there is a new device in this data center which should not be there, and it is trying to gather maybe user passwords or trying to get the usernames or whatever it is, or whatever attribution you can do. Based on that, an incident response plan is activated, and the kill chain process, if you are aware of, is executed to neutralize the threat. And the entire process of incident response follows. What happens is that you try to recover that. The moment that they detect this particular adversary, they stop it there, and the result is fed back to the management that what exactly has been happening. The other side of the scenario is red team has been, because the red team was actually testing the blue team capabilities. So red team was performing reconnaissance activities. So what they did was they decided that they will do covert operations and in the daytime, rather than, they wanted to get into the data center. So rather than utilizing the nighttime days, they decided to use the daytime. Probably that would be more beneficial because maybe less people will notice. So they penetrate the facility through maybe the back entrance, get into there, and successfully exit from the main entrance, and the security guard sitting there does not notice because someone is coming out of the main gate, and they probably implant maybe open VPN connection or something that they can access. And this is what you have actually detected when you were maybe monitoring your network. So at the end of this exercise, what happens is the red team was successfully enter into the data center. They were able to break something. They were able to execute the covert operation. Maybe they were not successful completely. Maybe the result was not ideal, but some objective was achieved. On the other hand, the blue team detected something and they engaged into a successful counterintelligence operation to neutralize it. The moment they detected the open VPN connection and enumeration activity by a new device in the data center which should not be. So in commercial engagements, especially in third-party red teaming, this is somewhat very typical. If you have been doing consulting, you know it. Many times you are going there for a black box testing, and you are being blocked by their defense team because they are not aware, and that is how you test their capabilities. So let's just keep this scenario in mind. When we talk about defensive counterintelligence, what exactly we apply? Risk assessment methodologies, physical security, personal security, information security, communication security. We just saw the example of physical security in the previous slide. Risk assessment methodology, because this is a part of defensive counterintelligence. This is something that you try to put in place so that you can stop the adversary. You can think of it as a part of what we call in cyber operations an active defense as well. Risk assessment is definitely a part of active defense. Your risk assessment methodology might be similar, might be different, but it can definitely help you to apply some action based on the intelligence that you gather, based on the kind of risk assessment framework that you have. Deterrence and detection is it's very natural because what you actually try to do by deterrence and detection is you try to intimidate a would-be perpetrator. I mean, you try to put in something that they would fear. They would, in our scenario, what could be the deterrent? Maybe the deterrent was, in the red team activity was probably, they did not want to do it in the night probably because of razor wire, CCTV, and lighting in the night. That is why probably they tried to do it in the day. That was a deterrent, otherwise they would have tried to do it in the night. Probably that was the reason that the red team thought of doing it in the day and maybe avoid detection. On the flip side of the coin, the CND teams on security controls force the red team into entering into high-risk penetration because they could have probably done something from their seat. But because of the kind of controls put in place, they had to get into the data center that was a high risk. Physical security is definitely a primary component of deterrence. CCTV, intrusion detection, access control, lighting, containment, all these things are part of physical security, and that's a major part of deterrence in counterintelligence operations. Personal security, it's very much similar to what we talk about human intelligence. This is a typical scenario. You would have come across a lot of people trying to gather a lot of information in this kind of gatherings as well, because you don't know everybody who is coming across and just for networking purposes whether that person is trying to do some information gathering or what exactly is that. So we need to be very aware about that, because personal security is designed with the idea of preventing the unwanted employees, and that is where maybe your human resource also comes into the picture. They need to be very aware about this counterintelligence technique. Information security, document safeguarding, document transfer, maybe TLS in place for email communication, all that stuff. So communication security is again maybe encryption on the email, phones, faxes, how you are protecting that information. Properly implemented communication security, maybe not be a deterrent, but even if you have these things in place and a breach occurs, you still need to get into the same cycle of intelligence and try to apply that in order to neutralize the breach. When we talk about offensive counterintelligence, majorly it has deception and detection. Deception is something which is like very, it's a kind of a new buzzword in cyber security. We talk a lot about deception network these days. It's for two types, active and passive. The basic idea is to neutralize whatever you collect and just apply the same counterintelligence technique. Red teaming exercises are most effective when you apply the defensive counterintelligence, increase situational awareness, because red teaming is not a vulnerability assessment. It is not specifically a penetration testing, and it should not be looking at it that way. So what you need to do is every now and then you need to flip the blue team and red team so that they need to know that what exactly the other team is capable of. Deception is this is purposefully misleading an individual or group. When you say active defense, which is something that we do on, like we are doing it very actively these days in network operations also. So, and anybody coming from the intelligence background knows that deception is something which has been used in military for a long time, and that is exactly the same concept being used on the network deception technologies that we are using these days for defense or active defense. So application to cyber network operations, both for intelligence and counterintelligence, is both internally as well as externally. You need to try to answer this question, that what you are trying to detect, your point of interest, establish timelines, what technologies are you using, are they giving you the enough information that you can leverage. So These are the 2 points that I can see that we can take from here. That everybody thinks that intelligence and counterintelligence is for government agencies only. That has been a traditional thought. That's all well and good, but it does not mean that we cannot leverage what is already there and try to reinvent new framework, because it is already there, and we just saw that whatever technologies we are using is somehow related to that. But rather than running around the new buzzwords or trying to reinvent a new wheel, we can probably try to see the existing wheel and try to just sit back and look at it and try to utilize it again. Stop running behind the buzzwords and try to look into the year-old established techniques, and based on that, how we can leverage this. That was the whole idea behind this talk. Any questions I would be happy to take, but I guess we are running out of time.
Do you see any reason for it why Indian companies are not employing this type of tactics in the team? They normally outsource the audit to some third-party company and happy with it. Any reason you see this thing?
I cannot one instance case, but it depends. Most of the time, the red teaming is usually most of the times is being done by a third party. So in those cases, probably it is more difficult to apply and maybe convince your client to apply this the existing framework. But if it is there within your own organization,